In a world where time is scarce and attention spans even scarcer, standing in front of an audience as committed and passionate as a TED crowd is not just a privilege, it's an honor steeped in shared purpose. The speaker opens not with flair or forced energy, but with heartfelt gratitude. It's not a mere formality, it's an emotional acknowledgement of the space, the people, and the rare opportunity to connect with a room full of inspired minds. This introduction sets the stage not for a typical speech, but for something more profound, an invitation to awaken, engage, and transform. The speaker begins by expressing sincere appreciation, not just for the chance to speak, but for the energy, values, and community spirit present in the room. He mentions being on the fence about attending TED, unsure whether to take time out of his intense schedule. But the moment he received an invitation, he leapt at the opportunity, driven by something deeper than obligation. That deeper pull, what he refers to implicitly as purpose, is a recurring theme throughout the talk. In a world full of busyness, saying yes to something that aligns with one's soul is an act of self-awareness and alignment. This act of listening to inner guidance and honoring it with action is the first lesson in personal power and authenticity. He then recounts the impact of attending the sessions, admitting he's already received tremendous value, not just from the stage, but from the casual, spontaneous connections with others. This humility is important. Many leaders speak to give, but few speak to also receive. This dual flow of giving and receiving, of speaking and listening, is where true connection lies. What he highlights is a secret ingredient of real influence, genuine curiosity, and admiration for others. No matter how experienced or celebrated a person becomes, there is always something to learn. And learning from others isn't a weakness, it's a strength. It signals openness, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. What's even more striking is his observation of the unique energy present at TED. He's traveled the world, spoken in prestigious venues, and coached some of the most influential figures. Yet he says he has never seen a place quite like this, so concentrated with talent, intellect, and above all, passion. The energy in the room isn't just from intelligence, but from shared values. There's a collective spirit here, a commitment to contribution, to ideas that matter, to transformation. In a world obsessed with competition, this speaker celebrates community. In a world focused on status, he praises service. He promises to return to TED, not as a speaker, but as a participant. This is not just a polite gesture. It reflects a powerful mindset, lifelong learning and contribution. Too often people reach a level of success and stop growing. They become teachers who no longer remain students. But true mastery requires humility. The idea that growth is ongoing, that learning never ends, is central to lasting success. Whether it's business, relationships, health, or contribution, stagnation is the enemy of fulfillment. The speaker doesn't just talk about this, he lives it. He models it. And in that modeling, he gives permission for others to do the same. Then with a shift in tone and pace, he acknowledges the constraints of time. I'm both challenged and excited, he says. This duality, challenge and excitement, is the fuel of transformation. He is thrilled at the opportunity to give something back, to share insights that may create ripples far beyond the walls of his venue. But he's also realistic. The typical seminars he offers are 50 hours long, 50. That's not an exaggeration. He immerses people in deep, prolonged, and emotionally intense experiences because real change doesn't come from inspiration alone. It comes from immersion, repetition, application. He shares an important metaphor: language learning. You don't learn to speak a language by reading rules or memorizing grammar. You learn by immersion, by living it, breathing it, making mistakes, adjusting, and doing it again. The same is true of personal transformation. Change isn't intellectual, it's emotional. You don't change your life by understanding principles, you change it by embodying them, by getting them into your nervous system. This is why short talks, while powerful, often only scratch the surface. They light the fire, but don't keep it burning. Sustained change requires emotional leverage, new patterns, and consistent action. What's more, his style is not scripted. He doesn't come with pre-written words. He doesn't recite. He interacts. He tunes into the room like a jazz musician tuning into the rhythm. He responds to energy, to questions, to needs. This improvisational style reflects something crucial about growth. It's not linear. It's not formulaic. Life changes through connection, through spontaneity, through moments that were never planned but are deeply felt. In 17 minutes, the standard TED Talk length, he acknowledges that full immersion is not possible. But even in that brief time, he aims to spark something real. And therein lies the heart of the message. Even small moments can be transformative when approached with presence and passion. Change does not require massive time, it requires massive emotion, clarity, and commitment. You can have a breakthrough in a minute if you allow yourself to be fully present, to ask the right question, or to shift a belief. The depth of transformation isn't always tied to the duration. It's tied to the depth of engagement. So what's the takeaway here? First, gratitude is a superpower. Starting any experience with gratitude opens the heart, grounds the ego, and creates a bridge between people. It removes the illusion of separateness and invites connection. Second, presence matters more than performance. Whether in a TED Talk or a conversation with a friend, what creates impact isn't what you say, it's how connected you are when you say it. Words are empty without emotional congruence. Third, immersion is the path to mastery. You don't transform your body by working out once. You don't transform your relationships by having one deep talk. And you don't master your mind by reading one book. Repetition with emotion is the mother of all skill. Fourth, learning is lifelong. The speaker doesn't position himself above the audience. He's in it with them. He celebrates them, learns from them, commits to coming back. That humility is not weakness, it's leadership. Fifth, contribution is the highest form of fulfillment. All the people at TED, the speaker included, share something deeper than intelligence. They share a value system. A system rooted in giving, growing, and making a difference. That sense of meaning is what binds the community. The truth is, most people are searching for something deeper than success. They want fulfillment. They want to feel alive. They want to matter. And in this short but potent talk, the speaker doesn't just tell people how to get there. He shows it through his energy, his commitment, and his example. He embodies the message. He becomes the change he's inviting others to make. In a culture where attention is fragmented, where people are drowning in information but starving for wisdom, this speech is a reminder of what really moves us: authenticity, gratitude, connection, presence, and contribution. It's not about being perfect, it's about being real. It's not about knowing it all, it's about being willing to learn and grow. And it's not about talking the talk, it's about living the message every day. If there's one lasting idea to take away from this brief yet powerful moment, it's this: change is possible, but not through passivity. Change is born in the fire of commitment, in the willingness to engage fully, in the courage to show up raw, real, and open. Whether in 17 minutes or 50 hours, transformation begins the moment you decide to step in completely. In conclusion, what the speaker delivers in this short segment is not just a thank you message, it's a microcosm of a life philosophy. It's a testimony to what happens when talent, values, and energy align. When people come together not to impress, but to express. When the goal isn't applause, but impact. And when the ultimate purpose isn't just success, but significance. In a room full of visionaries, scientists, creators, and problem solvers, the challenge is not to teach intelligence, it's to ignite purpose. The speaker begins this segment of his talk not with a claim to teach something revolutionary, but with deep respect for the format and for the intellectual atmosphere of TED. He acknowledges that condensing profound ideas into short time frames is no easy task, referencing physicist Lisa Reynolds' struggle to explain Einstein's theories in just 18 minutes. The point is not just humor, it's humility. Even the most brilliant minds wrestle with expressing depth in tight spaces. And yet, within those constraints, value can still be created. If done right, it can spark life-altering shifts. This mindset is what frames his entire approach to the talk: a desire to serve, not to impress. And serving in his language means offering something that goes beyond temporary inspiration. It means providing tools, experiences, and resources that lead to deep, sustainable transformation. He introduces a concept he calls N time, no extra time, a strategy where individuals can learn and grow even during moments that otherwise go unused, like while driving, working out, or doing daily routines. Growth doesn't have to demand more time, it requires only a shift in intention and focus. In this spirit of service, he offers something rare in the often transactional world of personal development: free access to any of his programs, products, and seminars for TED attendees. It's not about sales, it's about support. The gesture is one of genuine contribution, a way of saying, if this matters to you and you want to go deeper, you're invited. This offering isn't a pitch, it's a continuation of his message. If emotion and purpose truly drive change, then this is an extension of that mission to remove barriers for those who seek to evolve. Then, with the tone both grounded and passionate, he shifts the energy and says the race begins. It's more than a metaphor. It signals a transition from welcome to action, from appreciation to engagement. He admits that in his desire to serve, he may have packed a lot into a short time, but the density is intentional. Every word, every idea is designed not just to inform, but to awaken. And yet he also knows that TED's limitations prevent the full interactive experiences he typically uses in his live seminars, where transformation happens in real time through personal breakthroughs. But even in a limited time window, he aims to ignite something essential. He clarifies something important. He's not there to motivate. That's a myth, a label people often throw at him based on surface level impressions. But motivation in his view is fleeting. It's not about jumping up and down or hyping people into action. True change doesn't come from being fired up for a moment. It comes from understanding why you do what you do and shifting the internal patterns that no longer serve you. And that's when he reveals who he really is. I'm the why guy. This single sentence contains the core of his philosophy. He is obsessed not with results alone, but with the root of human behavior, the invisible, often unexamined motives that shape our every action. His mission is to dive beneath the surface of performance, success, and even struggle to uncover the real forces that drive people. Why do we make the choices we make? Why do we hesitate or leap forward? Why do we sabotage or succeed? These are not just psychological curiosities, they are the very keys to transformation. What's especially powerful about this moment is that he insists on present time awareness. He doesn't want to know why you did what you did 10 years ago. He wants to know what drives you today. Are you still operating from an outdated pattern, a childhood belief, a fear you haven't questioned? Because if you are, then your decisions, emotions, and actions are being dictated not by your present truth, but by a past version of yourself. And that, he suggests, is where most people get stuck, not from lack of intelligence, but from unexamined emotion. Here he introduces one of the boldest claims of his philosophy: emotion is the force of life. That statement carries enormous weight. It challenges the idea that we are primarily rational beings. Yes, we have brilliant minds. Yes, we can think through problems, analyze data, and build strategies. But in moments of truth, it's not logic that determines action, it's emotion. And in this room of TED attendees, he says with a smile, most of us have great minds. He's being playful, but also deeply human. Even among the world's smartest individuals, there is room to reflect on the reality that intellect alone is not enough. The truth is, our minds are powerful tools, but they are tools. They are not the engine, they are the steering wheel. It's emotion that presses the gas pedal. It's emotion that causes us to fall in love, start a business, take a risk, or sometimes give up. The speaker shares a concept echoed by psychologists and behavioral economists alike: we don't always act in our own best interest. Even if we know what's good for us, even if we can logically lay out the benefits, we don't always follow through. Why? Because the emotional wiring overrides logic. This idea flies in the face of traditional self-help advice, which often tells people to think positively or to rationalize their way out of problems. But the speaker insists that real transformation happens not when you think differently, but when you feel differently. When you attach new meaning to an old memory. When you associate pain with inaction and joy with movement. That's the realm of the emotional mind, and that's where he operates. Oh, how do we change emotion? How do we take this invisible force and make it work for us instead of against us? First, we must identify our motive for action. We must ask not only what we want, but what compels us to move toward or away from things. Are we driven by fear or love? Are we trying to avoid pain or to achieve fulfillment? Most people don't know. They're reacting to life instead of designing it. But when you slow down and ask, what's my why? You begin to take back control of your emotional programming. Second, we must recognize patterns. Human beings are creatures of habit, not just in behavior, but in emotion. Some people live in patterns of frustration, others in excitement, still others in sadness or anxiety. Over time, these patterns become identities. I'm just an anxious person, someone might say. But that's not identity, it's a repeated emotional habit. The speaker's goal is to interrupt those patterns and replace them with empowering ones. Third, we must recondition our nervous system. The emotional brain learns through experience and repetition. That's why the speaker believes so deeply in immersion. A one-time motivational speech might lift you temporarily, but it won't rewire your default state. To do that, you need emotional leverage, a reason so powerful it compels action. And you need reinforcement rituals, tools, and environments that support the new identity you want to embody. And finally, we must commit to living consciously. Most people are sleepwalking through life, reacting to circumstances rather than shaping them. But the people who create lasting change are those who take the time to go inward, to listen, to question their beliefs, to confront their fears, to ignite their passion. These people don't wait for motivation, they create it by tapping into their deepest why. This is not about hype or positivity, it's about ownership. It's about realizing that the only sustainable fuel for action is internal, not external. You can be pushed by fear, but only pulled by vision. You can be moved by a crisis, but only transformed by a compelling purpose. What the speaker offers is not a secret formula or a quick fix. He offers something better, a lens through which to view your life differently. A way to see yourself not as a product of your past, but as the architect of your future. And that future begins with one courageous question: why do I do what I do? When you begin to answer that question honestly, a new world opens up. You stop blaming and start building. You stop running and start creating. You realize that behind every action, every success, every struggle is a belief, a meaning, a story, and that you have the power to change the story. You are not a slave to emotion. You are its master if you choose to be. And so in just a few moments on stage, this speaker doesn't just share information. He shares transformation. He reminds us that we are driven not by logic, but by passion, not by facts, but by feelings. That beneath every behavior is a motive, and behind every motive is a desire to feel something: love, safety, significance, freedom, connection. And if we're willing to ask why, really ask why, we can begin to reclaim the steering wheel of our lives. In a world increasingly dominated by intellect, logic, and data-driven decision-making, it's easy to believe that the key to a successful life lies solely in the mind. We admire brilliance, we celebrate genius, and we chase knowledge as though it alone can unlock all the doors to a better life. And yet, despite all our mental advancements, technological, scientific, educational, we remain emotionally unfulfilled, disconnected, and confused by the very people we live and work with every day. The speaker begins this segment of the talk by acknowledging this paradox: we can think beautifully, but do we truly understand ourselves and others? It's wonderful to be smart, to contemplate how the world works, to analyze and intellectualize, but thinking isn't the same as feeling. Analysis isn't empathy. Knowing is not the same as living. And intelligence, however brilliant, can still leave us lonely and detached if we don't examine what's really driving us beneath the surface. This is the invitation at the core of his message: to explore where you are today, not yesterday, not where you plan to be, but where you truly are right now. and to do so for two profound reasons. First, so you can contribute more, and second, so you can develop greater empathy, appreciation, and connection with others. These are not light goals. They are, in fact, the very foundation of meaningful living. Contribution isn't about donating money or volunteering for hours. It's about showing up fully and authentically in every area of your life and using your gifts to make a real difference. And connection isn't simply about agreeing with others or liking their social media posts. It's about understanding people deeply, even those who challenge your worldview. The truth is, our society is becoming increasingly interconnected through technology, but emotionally we are becoming more isolated. The speaker warns us of a deep societal risk. As technology connects us faster and more globally than ever before, it's also exposing us to more conflict, misunderstanding, and emotional friction. Just because we intersect digitally does not mean we understand one another. In fact, it's often the opposite. Online interaction lacks nuance. Without tone, body language, and emotional resonance, conversations can become battlegrounds instead of bridges. The solution isn't more information, it's more human understanding. The kind of understanding that comes not from the brain, but from the heart. It requires us to look beyond our judgments, beyond our past, and beyond our cultural biases to see the human being in front of us, to understand what drives them, what they fear, what they love, what they're really after. And this has been the speaker's obsession for over 30 years, to understand what makes the ultimate difference in the quality of a person's life. Not just what creates success on the outside, but what fulfills someone on the inside. What transforms their state, what sustains their joy, what makes them resilient in pain and generous in prosperity. It's not a theory to him, it's a daily practice grounded in experience. For 3 decades, he's received phone calls in life or death moments, not metaphorically, literally. A pro athlete collapses under pressure after leading a tournament. A teenager threatens to take their own life. A family crumbles under emotional chaos. And in these moments, he doesn't have the luxury of academic discussion or motivational fluff. He has to produce results right now. That pressure, repeated year after year, doesn't just refine skill, it carves out truth. It demands understanding that goes beyond surface level coaching and taps into the deepest drivers of human behavior. And that understanding, he tells us, comes from knowing the human needs that shape every decision, every emotion, every relationship. When people fall apart, it's rarely because they lack knowledge, it's because they're emotionally unmet. They don't feel safe, they don't feel loved, they don't feel significant or in control. The symptoms are unique, but the source is often the same. It's why two people with the same education, background, and intelligence can lead drastically different lives. One may be fulfilled, compassionate, and energized, the other anxious, withdrawn, and self-destructive. It's not what we know, it's what we feel, and what we believe we are capable of contributing. This is why the speaker doesn't just work to fix performance. He goes deeper. When a person is underperforming or sabotaging their life, he asks a deeper question: what's shaping this person's ability to contribute? What's preventing them from living beyond themselves? Because at our highest level of living, we all long to give. Contribution isn't just a moral ideal, it's a human need. When we're at our best, we don't just take from life, we add to it. This brings us to what he calls the 2 master lessons of life. And if you understand these, you begin to understand yourself and the world on a completely different level. The first lesson is the one most people in the TED room and perhaps in most high-achieving environments have already mastered to some degree. He calls it the science of achievement. It's the ability to take something invisible, a dream, a vision, an idea, and bring it into the physical world. It's the power to manifest, to take action, to discipline your focus, and to create results that others can see, feel, or use. In our society, this is what we reward. We give awards for it, titles for it, followers for it. Entrepreneurs, artists, inventors, scientists, and leaders become legends because they mastered this science. They made their thoughts real. They didn't just talk, they produced. And producing in any field requires mastery of strategy, time, energy, and psychology. But here's the danger. Many people who master the science of achievement end up with outer success and inner emptiness. They build companies and lose their families. They earn millions and feel meaningless. They gain respect but feel unseen. They achieve, but they don't feel alive. Why? Because they miss the second, and perhaps more important, lesson of life. The second lesson is what the speaker refers to as the art of fulfillment. Unlike achievement, which follows formulas and models, fulfillment is deeply personal. What makes one person feel complete may leave another feeling hollow. There's no one size fits all. And worse, there's no checklist. You can't copy your way to fulfillment. You have to live your way into it. And that means asking hard questions. What truly matters to me? What legacy do I want to leave? What makes me feel most alive? What does success mean to me, not to the world? While achievement is a science, a recipe, fulfillment is a dance. You have to learn your rhythm. You have to feel it. And often you must fail your way into it. The problem is most people are so busy chasing achievement that they never pause to ask if what they're achieving is what they truly want. The speaker isn't minimizing achievement. He's built a life on results, but he's also walked beside people at the peak of success who felt numb, burned out, or broken. And what they lacked wasn't intelligence or drive, it was emotional congruence. They weren't living their values, they weren't connected to their purpose, they weren't giving the way they knew they could. Fulfillment doesn't come from getting, it comes from growing and giving. Growth feeds the soul, giving feeds the spirit, and both require awareness, courage, and emotional alignment. So now the speaker circles back to his challenge to the audience. Take a moment to reflect, not years from now, not in hindsight, but today. Where are you in your life, not in terms of goals, but in terms of your state, your values, your contribution, your emotional truth? This is not a luxury question, it's a survival one. In a world pulling you in 100 directions, you must pause to ask where you are, or you'll wake up one day in a place you never wanted to be, and ask for two reasons. One, so you can contribute more, because when you operate from alignment, your power to serve, love, and lead becomes unstoppable. Two, so you can understand and appreciate others more, because the greatest disease in modern society isn't physical, it's emotional isolation. The more we connect digitally, the more we must intentionally connect emotionally. Understanding dissolves judgment. Appreciation fosters connection, and connection heals not only individuals but entire communities. In closing, this portion of the talk is more than a motivational message. It's a summons, a call to rise out of the head and into the heart. To go from intellectual analysis to emotional truth. He wants you to matter. He wants you to wake up to the unseen forces within you. The drives, the needs, the fears, the desires, the longing to connect, to contribute, to love. Because that's what life is really about. And if you miss that, it doesn't matter what you build, because something inside will always feel like it's missing. But when you get it, when you align your achievement with your emotion, your strategy with your soul, then you don't just live. You thrive, you serve. You light the world on fire. We live in a world that celebrates achievement. We idolize people who build billion-dollar companies, who win awards, who break records. We look up to those who master the science of success, the ones who know how to create, scale, and execute with precision. And to be fair, achievement matters. It moves humanity forward. It allows dreams to become tangible. It builds families, communities, and entire civilizations. But there's another side to life, one that is rarely mastered, even by those who have made it in the eyes of the world. That side is called fulfillment. Unlike achievement, which has clear rules, metrics, and strategies, fulfillment is messy. It's emotional. It's personal. And most of all, it's an art. The speaker draws a clear line between these two paths. Achievement is science. Fulfillment is art. You can write the code, follow the recipe, and build a product. That's the beauty of the scientific method. You follow the right steps, and you'll likely get the right result. Once you understand the formula, you just scale it, evolve it, and play at a higher level. But with fulfillment, there's no formula, no map, no guaranteed outcome, because fulfillment doesn't come from things. It comes from meaning. And meaning is something we create, not something we're given. So what is fulfillment, really? It's not pleasure, although pleasure can be part of it. It's not success, although success can contribute. Fulfillment comes from appreciation and contribution. The ability to deeply appreciate your life, the people in it, and even your struggles, and then to give something back, to contribute beyond yourself. That is where lasting fulfillment is born. But here's the catch. You can only feel so much by yourself. You can only achieve so much on your own. There's a limit to how much joy, gratitude, or even success you can feel in isolation. Human beings are wired for connection. Our fulfillment grows when our lives touch others. It grows when we give, when we help, when we serve, when our story becomes a source of strength for someone else. The speaker, through decades of experience, has witnessed this paradox firsthand. He shares from a powerful personal laboratory of life. He's worked with people who have had everything: money, love, education, security, even admiration, and yet ended up in pain, addiction, and self-destruction. People who were given every advantage, every resource they said they needed, only to squander it. You probably know people like that too. They were nurtured, supported, loved, and yet they collapse under their own weight. On the other hand, he has also encountered people who have endured horrific trauma, emotional, physical, sexual, spiritual abuse. People who've lived through abandonment, loss, poverty, and despair. And yet somehow many of them rise up not as victims, but as leaders, healers, and contributors. They channel their pain into purpose. They transform suffering into strength. They take their worst moments and turn them into their greatest source of empathy and power. So the question arises, what makes the difference? What separates those who rise from those who fall? What causes someone with everything to spiral and someone with nothing to soar? It's not resources. It's not background. It's not intelligence. It's something else. Something deeper. Something that comes from the inside out. We live in what the speaker calls a therapy culture, a world where people are taught to look backward for the answers to who they are. We analyze our childhoods, dissect our traumas, and revisit our past as though it holds all the power over our future. Now, don't misunderstand. Therapy can be powerful. Understanding our past can be healing, but the danger lies in letting that past define us. In believing that biography equals destiny, that because you were abandoned, you'll never trust. Because you were abused, you'll always suffer. Because you were poor, you'll never succeed. The speaker challenges this idea head on. He acknowledges that while our past can influence us, it does not have to imprison us. Our past is not our future unless we live there, unless we keep reliving the same story. unless we continue to draw identity from pain instead of power. Everyone in the room, he says, already knows this. That's why they're in the room. They've already broken through at some level, but even so, we must remind ourselves because knowledge is not enough. You can know what to do and still not do it. You can understand the theory of change and still remain stuck. Why? Because intellectual knowing isn't the same as emotional ownership. We don't live what we know. We live what we believe, and more importantly, what we've conditioned. This is why the speaker doesn't leave us with awareness alone. He wants to ignite something more powerful, something that can immediately alter the direction of your life. That something is decision. When you strip everything away, your background, your story, your circumstances, what you're left with is this, your power to decide. That's the ultimate power. That's the moment everything can change. Not tomorrow, not next year, right now, because in a single moment of decision, a person can rise from suffering to strength, from confusion to clarity, from fear to courage, from victimhood to leadership. We all know this is true. You've had moments like this in your life. A moment when you said, that's it, I'm done living this way, or I'm going to change. And maybe the change didn't happen overnight, but the direction of your life changed instantly. That moment was a decision, not a wish, not a hope, a decision. A line in the sand. A new standard. So the speaker poses a simple yet powerful question. Have you ever failed to achieve something? Of course you have, we all have, but when you look back, was it really a lack of resources? Or was it a lack of decision? A lack of commitment? A lack of follow through? Most of the time the answer is yes. We didn't fail because it was impossible. We failed because we didn't fully commit, because we hesitated, because we didn't decide with enough emotional intensity. And so we drifted. That's the tragedy of modern life. Not that people aim high and miss, but that they aim low and hit. That they live lives of quiet frustration, all because they never made a powerful decision. The speakers often shared that in every moment we are making 3 decisions that shape our lives, whether consciously or unconsciously. 1. What am I going to focus on? 2. What does it mean? 3. What am I going to do about it? Focus, meaning, and action. These 3 create the fabric of your reality. 2 people can go through the same event, say, losing a job, and create completely different futures based on how they answer these 3 questions. One might focus on rejection, see it as proof they're a failure, and spiral into depression. The other might focus on freedom, see it as a sign to start something new and build a thriving business. The difference, not the event. The decision. Your life is not the result of your conditions. It's the result of your decisions. Every day you have the opportunity to decide differently, to choose what you'll focus on, to create a new meaning, to take a new action. That's the freedom we all have, no matter what the past looks like. The past does not equal the future unless you choose to live there. Ace, the talk draws to a close. The speaker returns to the heart of his message. If you want to feel alive, not just successful, not just admired, but truly fulfilled, then you must grow. You must give. Growth is your personal evolution. It's becoming more than you were yesterday. Not in comparison to others, but in comparison to your potential. When you grow, you feel progress, and progress equals happiness. But growth alone is not enough. You also need to give, to use what you've learned, what you've survived, what you've become, not just for yourself, but for others. Because only in contribution do we find our deepest purpose. You don't need to change the world overnight. But if you can light up one person's day, if you can help one child smile again, if you can inspire one soul to dream again, then your life matters, and you will feel it. As the lights fade and the applause rises, the speaker leaves us with a truth so simple, yet so profound, it can transform your life the moment you accept it. You are not your past. You are your decisions. No matter what you've done, what you've failed at, what you regret, your next decision can shape a new destiny. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need all the answers. You just need to decide that you're done living a life that isn't fully aligned with your truth. That you're done being controlled by fear. That you're ready to grow, give love, and live fully, freely now, because the greatest tragedy is not death, it's living a life that was never fully lived. But the greatest joy, it's knowing that at any moment you can begin again. It wasn't the end, it was the beginning. That single sentence, brief, powerful, defines the turning point in the life of Lance Armstrong and serves as a metaphor for all of us. After facing cancer, not only surviving, but returning to life with a fire, he won 7 championships, something he had never done before. Why? What changed? Was it talent, strategy, better equipment? No, it was emotional fitness. We all know about physical fitness, the stamina, the strength, the external discipline. But the truth is, emotional fitness is the ultimate differentiator. It's the capacity to manage your mind, master your emotions, and shift your internal state regardless of what's happening externally. It's what takes someone from ordinary to extraordinary. And in ROBBINS' experience of working with over 3 million people across 80 countries over 3 decades, the patterns are clear. The strongest among us are not those with the best resources, but those with the deepest emotional resilience. This concept that emotion, not intellect, is what drives real change is a recurring theme in ROBBINS' work. You can give 2 people the same opportunity, tools, or training, but they'll create completely different results. Why? Because their internal state is different. Let's explore this through two invisible forces that Robbins says shape all human behavior, state and model of the world. Think about a time in your life when you did something you immediately regretted. Maybe you said something cruel. Maybe you lashed out. Maybe you gave up on something too soon. And then afterwards you asked yourself, why did I do that? That's not who I am. We've all been there. In contrast, recall a time you did something brilliant, compassionate, brave, or bold. You felt amazing. You thought, that was me. But in both cases, good or bad, it wasn't your ability that changed. It was your state. Your emotional state determines your behavior. And your behavior creates your results. When you're in a peak state, confident, focused, energized, you perform at a level far beyond your average. You communicate differently. You see more possibilities. You attract better outcomes. Conversely, when you're in a poor state, fearful, uncertain, angry, your world contracts. This is why Robbins teaches people how to change their state instantly. Through physiology, language, and focus, you can shift your emotions in seconds. You don't need hours of therapy to feel confident. You just need to learn how to trigger the right state. But changing your state is just the beginning. The real long-term transformation comes from understanding the second invisible force that shapes your life, your model of the world. Your model of the world is the blueprint of how you believe life works. It's the filter through which you interpret everything. It's shaped by your upbringing, culture, religion, trauma, education, and experiences. It answers three critical questions. 1, what are you after? 2, what do you believe about how to get it? 3, what's the emotional fuel driving your actions? Let's unpack each one. This isn't just about goals or desires. It's deeper than that. We've all experienced getting what we thought we wanted only to find it empty or unfulfilling. You worked for that promotion, got the house, earned the money, and then asked, is this all there is? That's because desires are not the deepest drivers of behavior. What really shapes your life are your needs. Robbins has identified what he calls the 6 human needs, 6 psychological drives that influence every choice we make. These are not merely preferences. They are universal and fundamental. Everyone meets these needs, but we each prioritize them differently and pursue them in different ways. Let's explore them one by one. We all need a sense of certainty to feel safe, stable, and in control. Certainty allows us to avoid pain and experience comfort. We need to know that we can survive, that we can pay the bills, that the roof won't collapse on our heads. But here's the twist. If you get too much certainty, what do you feel? Boredom. Imagine knowing exactly what will happen when and how every day for the rest of your life. At first it might feel comforting, but soon it would become suffocating. Life without variety is lifeless. While we all need certainty, we also crave uncertainty, surprise, excitement, adventure. Even people who say they hate change still find ways to get variety through movies, gossip, travel, books, arguments. This need fuels growth and excitement. It makes life interesting. But for some people, the need for variety is so high, they'll sabotage certainty to feel alive. We all want to feel important, unique, and needed. We want to believe we matter. Some people meet this need by achieving. Others do it by being the biggest victim in the room. Some gain significance through violence, others through service. The strategy is different, but the need is the same. The danger is when significance becomes more important than connection, when your ego isolates you. The ultimate need, we all want to feel connected, seen, heard, understood, loved. Some people settle for connection when they don't believe love is possible. Some find it in family, others in faith, some in friendships. The problem is, when this need isn't met in healthy ways, people find it in unhealthy ones, joining gangs, entering toxic relationships, or creating drama. If you're not growing, you're dying. Growth gives us the sense that life is expanding, that we're becoming more. You don't have to be unhappy to grow, but growth can solve unhappiness. We grow spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, financially. Growth is the antidote to stagnation. This is the need that makes life truly meaningful. When we move beyond ourselves, when we use our gifts to help others, we feel connected to something greater. Contribution transforms pain into purpose. It's the difference between a rich life and an empty one. Understanding these needs is critical because they determine what really drives you, not just what you say you want, but what you're wired to pursue. If you want lasting change, you have to uncover which needs you're prioritizing and how you're trying to meet them. You also need to know, are your strategies sustainable, empowering, and aligned with your values? For example, if someone's top needs are certainty and significance, and their strategy is controlling others, they may succeed short-term but fail in relationships. Another person may meet certainty through faith and significance through contribution and live with peace and fulfillment. Two people can meet the same need with opposite results, one through destruction, another through love. Once you understand your needs, the next layer of your model of the world is your belief system, your mental map of how to meet those needs. Some people believe, if I'm rich, then I'll be loved. Others believe, if I suffer enough, people will finally see me. Others think, no matter, I have to be perfect. These are not random thoughts. They are deep-seated beliefs, often unconscious, that shape your behavior every day. Changing your life requires updating your map. It means questioning your rules, asking, is this belief helping or hurting me? Is there a better way to meet this need? And once your beliefs evolve, so does your destiny. Once you understand your needs, the next layer of your model of the world is your belief system, your mental map of how to meet those needs. Some people believe, if I'm rich, then I'll be loved. Others believe if I suffer enough, people will finally see me. Others think no matter I have to be perfect. These are not random thoughts. They are deep-seated beliefs, often unconscious, that shape your behavior every day. Changing your life requires updating your map. It means questioning your rules. Asking, is this belief helping or hurting me? Is there a better way to meet this need? And once your beliefs evolve, so does your destiny. So what shapes you? Your state, the emotions you're in daily, your model of the world, your needs, beliefs, and emotional fuel. Your decisions, which determine your focus, meaning, and actions. You are not shaped by your past. You are shaped by the meaning you give your past, the needs you prioritize, and the emotional fuel you live on. And once you understand this, you can change anything. Ask yourself, what's my top need right now? Certainty? Love? Growth? Am I meeting that need in a way that empowers or disempowers me? What beliefs are guiding my actions, and are they true? What emotional fuel am I using, and is it sustainable? Change begins with awareness. Transformation begins with ownership. You are not your past. You are your patterns, and patterns can change. All it takes is one moment of clarity, one decision, one shift in emotion, one upgrade in belief. And you're no longer the same person. So the next time you ask yourself why you're stuck, overwhelmed, disconnected, or even successful but unfulfilled, don't look outside. Look at your state, your needs, your map, and your fuel. Then choose to rise. Because it's not the end. It never was. It's the beginning. So many of us walk through life thinking we're in control, thinking we're making conscious decisions about what we want, who we love, what we pursue, but under the surface, there are invisible forces at play. They don't just shape our actions, they shape the very structure of our lives. These are our human needs, not just preferences, not whims, but fundamental psychological forces that shape every decision you've ever made and ever will. After certainty, the need to feel safe, grounded, and in control comes something else. Something a little wild, something unpredictable. Something that makes life worth living. Have you ever felt bored? Like every day is the same, every conversation is on repeat, every goal feels recycled. That's the cost of too much certainty. While we all crave stability and predictability, we also yearn for its opposite, variety. We want to mix it up, feel alive, take a risk, not know what's going to happen next. That's why you can love a movie so much that you watch it again, even though you already know how it ends. You're hoping enough time has passed that you'll feel surprised again. You're watching for the little nuances you missed. You're chasing the emotion. Variety gives us stimulation. It gives us challenges. It wakes us up from the sleep of routine. But here's the paradox. We say we want surprises, but only the good ones. When life throws us something we didn't ask for, like a breakup, a diagnosis, or a crisis, we call it a problem. But truthfully, those moments, as painful as they are, often serve as wake-up calls. They shake us loose. They force us to grow. They break the illusion that life is predictable. The truth is, you need variety. You need it like you need oxygen. Without it, life becomes stale. But with it, especially the kind you embrace, you feel fully alive. We all want to matter, to feel important, to feel that we're not just one of many, but someone special, different, unique. This is the third human need, significance. We chase it in different ways. Some people work 80 hours a week to earn more money, hoping their success will make them feel worthy. Others dive deep into spirituality, hoping their enlightenment will separate them from the crowd. Some become the smartest person in the room, the funniest, the strongest, the kindest. And some chase it through darkness. Robbins tells us that if someone has no culture, no background, no belief in their own resourcefulness, there's a shortcut to significance, and it's violence. Imagine a teenager in a forgotten neighborhood. No money, no guidance, no recognition. He walks around invisible, unacknowledged. But the moment he picks up a weapon and threatens someone, he's significant. He's feared. He's noticed. He's suddenly a 10 on the scale. In that moment, he is certainty too. He knows people will respond. He knows there's a risk. There's variety, adrenaline, power, fear, and most of all, significance. That's the dark truth. And unless we evolve consciously as a species, violence will always be a strategy to meet these psychological needs. But here's the good news. You can meet the need for significance in beautiful, creative, meaningful ways. You can make others feel seen. You can use your voice to elevate someone. You can build something, teach something, heal something. You don't have to take significance from the world. You can give IT, but the need to feel important will never go away. So the question is, what strategy will you use to feel significant? Underneath all the goals, the drive, the ambition, the pain, what we're really longing for is love. But love is scary. It requires vulnerability. It asks you to show your heart, not your armor. Easier, less risky. Doubly connect through conversation, through shared experiences, through social media, even through shared suffering. If we can't find love, we'll take connection because humans are wired to belong. But here's the hard truth. Most people have given up on love. They tell themselves it's not real, or not for them, or too risky. They've been hurt, so they guard their heart. They avoid intimacy. They distract themselves with busyness or fake substitute sex without intimacy, relationships without depth, friendships without truth. But deep down, they're starving. Because while connection can soothe us, only love can transform us. Love allows us to be fully seen and fully accepted. It lets us drop the mask. It gives us strength, not weakness, and yes, it requires courage. It means being honest about who you are. It means giving even when you don't feel like it. It means listening when you'd rather talk, loving when you'd rather walk away. But nothing compares to the power of real love. Here's where it gets real. Our needs often clash. You want certainty in your relationship, but you also crave variety. You want to feel significant, but you also want connection. You want to be loved, but you're terrified of being vulnerable. These internal contradictions create tension, and your life reflects how you resolve them. Some people choose significance over love and end up alone. Others choose certainty over variety and end up bored. Some chase variety with no foundation and live in chaos. But when you learn to meet these needs in healthy, empowering, sustainable ways, everything changes. You can create relationships that are both safe and exciting. You can build a life that is both meaningful and adventurous. You can feel important without putting others down. You can connect without losing yourself. It all begins with awareness and then new strategies. This is the golden question. And it's worth journaling on, reflecting on, and asking yourself regularly, how am I currently meeting each of these needs? Certainty, variety, significance of love. Are my methods healthy or harmful? Are they sustainable or destructive? Here are a few ways people meet these needs: certainty, healthy, building skills, cultivating faith, saving money, harmful, controlling others, never taking risks, using substances, variety, healthy, travel, learning, creative hobbies, new challenges, harmful, cheating, drama, addiction, impulsivity, significance, healthy, achieving goals, helping others, expressing uniqueness, harmful, violence, victimhood, arrogance, attention-seeking, love, connection, healthy, vulnerability, empathy, service, deep conversation, harmful, neediness, manipulation, staying in toxic relationships. Once you become conscious of your strategies, you have the power to change them. You didn't choose your needs. They're wired into your psychology, but you do choose how you meet them. You choose the behavior, the strategy, the identity. You can meet your need for significance by becoming the best version of yourself or by tearing others down. You can meet your need for variety through growth or chaos. You can meet your need for love through courage or through fear in every moment. You have the ability to create a life that meets your needs beautifully or destructively. And that's the gift. It's not about changing your needs, it's about elevating your strategies. In the pursuit of happiness, most people spend their lives chasing pleasure, comfort, love, and success. We strive to feel certain, to experience variety, to be important, and to feel connected. These drives, what Tony Robbins calls the 4 needs of the personality, are not random. They are universal, fundamental, and non-negotiable. Every human being on this planet finds a way to meet these needs, even if through destructive means. But here's the twist that most people never uncover until much later in life, often after they've climbed the ladder and found it leaning against the wrong wall. These 4 needs will never fulfill you. You can feel significant, yet still feel empty. You can have love in your life, yet still feel something's missing. You can have every ounce of variety and every drop of certainty, and yet feel like you're barely living. Why? Because true fulfillment doesn't come from getting. It comes from growing and giving. These are the needs of the spirit. And until these 2 needs are met, until your life expands beyond your own immediate desires, you will never feel the lasting joy, purpose, and meaning that your soul craves. The human spirit is designed to expand. We are meant to evolve, to stretch beyond our limitations, to become more than we were yesterday. Growth isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It's the silent hunger within every human being, the feeling that no matter how much we achieve, there's still another level inside us that's waiting to be tapped. If you're not growing, you're dying. It's that simple. Look at nature. A tree doesn't stop growing halfway through its life. It continues to expand its roots, extend its branches, reach toward the sun until its very last breath. So why do we as human beings think it's okay to settle? We get a job and stop learning. We get married and stop dating our spouse. We reach a level of comfort and stop pushing ourselves. But the soul knows. It whispers in quiet moments, this isn't it. And when we ignore that voice, when we stop growing, we start to feel the symptoms of stagnation, boredom, irritation, restlessness, sadness. And the world will tell you you've made it. You should be happy. But your spirit says there's more. It's not about never being satisfied. It's about honoring the part of you that knows your potential is infinite. Growth isn't just for overachievers or entrepreneurs. It's for every human being who wants to live fully alive. Growth can come in many forms: learning a new skill, challenging your limiting beliefs, healing old emotional wounds, deepening your spiritual understanding, taking on a new challenge that scares you. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be consistent. Because when you grow, you feel alive. You feel like you're on a journey, not stuck in a loop. And here's the truth, when you grow, you're not just preparing yourself for your own benefit. You're preparing yourself to give more. Which brings us to the final and most fulfilling need. The final need is the one that transforms everything. It's the shift from me to we, from personal success to global impact, from consumption to contribution. And it's this shift that brings the deepest, most enduring joy any human can experience. Contribution is what gives our lives meaning. You can have success, but if you're not contributing, it will eventually feel hollow. Contribution doesn't have to be global. It doesn't have to be a foundation or a movement. It can be the small things, the moments when you make someone feel seen, heard, or understood. When you give your time, your energy, your resources, your love without expecting anything in return, you unlock a level of fulfillment that nothing else can touch. And it's not theoretical. Robin's own life was changed by the power of a stranger's contribution. At 11 years old, Robbins was in a house filled with tension, fear, and hunger. It was Thanksgiving, but there was no food. His father was emotionally broken. His mother was furious. There was no joy, no laughter, no hope. Then a knock on the door. Someone unknown, unseen showed up with food. Not because they were asked, not because they wanted credit, but because they cared. For Robbins, it wasn't just food. It was a message, a sign, a shift in belief. Someone cared about his family. A stranger, which meant maybe strangers, people, the world weren't all bad. That moment planted a seed. It redefined what life meant. It created a new belief. If people care about me, I will care about others. And that belief became a decision. That decision became a mission. That mission became a movement. Years later, at the age of 17, Robbins decided he wanted to pay it forward. He saved enough money to feed 2 families on Thanksgiving. It was, in his words, the most moving experience of his life. Not receiving, but giving. The next year, he fed 4 families, then 8, then 16. He never did it for credit. But eventually, he realized he could scale his impact. He started getting friends involved. He started building businesses with that mission in mind. Eventually, he launched a foundation. And years later, that foundation grew to the point where it was feeding 2 million people across 35 countries every holiday season. That's not ego. That's impact. That's what happens when someone chooses to use their pain as fuel for purpose. You don't need a foundation to make a difference. You don't need millions of dollars. You don't need a huge platform. All you need is a decision. A decision to make life about more than you. A decision to look outside yourself and ask, where can I help? Who can I lift? What can I give? Maybe you give time to someone who's lonely. Maybe you forgive someone who doesn't deserve it. Maybe you share a story that helps someone heal. Maybe you feed someone who's hungry like Robbins once was, and maybe, just maybe, that one act of kindness will change everything for someone else, just as it did for him. Contribution isn't about changing the world in one stroke. It's about changing one moment, and then another, and another, until your life becomes a ripple effect of love. When you meet the needs of growth and contribution, you rise above the cycle of temporary satisfaction. You stop chasing highs and start living with purpose. You stop measuring your life by what you have and start measuring it by what you give and who you become. This is the highest level of human development, not just success, but significance through service. And here's what's remarkable. When you contribute, everything else gets better. You feel more connected because you're focused on others. You feel more confident because you're living in alignment with your values. You feel more energized because you're not consumed by your problems. You feel more grateful because you realize how much you have to offer. And the best part, contribution is addictive. Once you feel that joy, that you see that impact, you want more of it. You don't just give, you become a giver. You don't just grow, you become a leader. As Robbins said, life is not about me. It's about we. We are not separate. We are connected by our shared hopes, fears, needs, and dreams. The more we awaken to this truth, the more we can create a world that reflects it. Nicholas Negroponte's $100 laptop project is a perfect example. A man of brilliance, yet what made his story powerful was his purpose. He wasn't just creating a product. He was serving a mission. He wasn't just innovating. He was giving. And when people awaken to a cause, when they connect their gifts to something larger than themselves, their life takes on a whole new dimension. You can feel it in them. You can hear it in their voice. You can see it in their eyes. Purpose has a look. Fulfillment has a frequency. And the beautiful part is, it's available to all of us. The 6 human needs are the framework of our internal world. Everyone meets the first 4 in some way, but only those who grow and contribute truly live, fulfilled lives. So here's the invitation. Don't wait for a perfect moment to grow. Grow now. Don't wait to be rich to contribute. Contribute now. Don't let fear stop you from loving. Love now. Don't think you need to be ready to start. Start now, because someone out there needs your light. Just like Robbins needed the stranger's kindness at 11 years old. Just like you may need this message now. You were not born just to survive. You were born to evolve, to expand, to give. Let your life be the gift it was meant to be. We all start from the same foundation. As human beings, we share the same 6 fundamental needs: certainty, variety, significance, love and connection, growth and contribution. But if we all need the same things, why do our lives look so different? Why do some people become healers and some become destroyers? Why do some find joy in the face of adversity while others crumble under success? The answer lies in the way we prioritize these needs, in our internal belief maps, and perhaps most importantly, in the emotions we experience most frequently. Let's break this down. Because once you understand this, you'll have a new lens through which you'll see your past, your present, and your future. All 6 needs live within you, but not all 6 are equal in influence. 1 or 2 are likely driving most of your decisions, shaping your choices, forming your habits, and ultimately guiding your destiny. Are you someone who values certainty above all else? Do you crave control, stability, safety? Do you avoid risk and change because the unknown threatens your sense of comfort? Or are you someone who lives for uncertainty, for variety, constantly chasing new adventures, new experiences, new emotions? Maybe your highest driver is significance, the burning need to be seen, acknowledged, admired, or different. Or maybe you're someone who's wired for love and connection, constantly seeking unity, compassion, relationships, and emotional intimacy. Every human needs all 6, but what you put first, what dominates your decisions, determines the trajectory of your life. Think of it like this. Your top need acts like a compass, tilting every thought and action toward that value. And that tilt eventually leads you somewhere, your destination, your destiny. A person driven primarily by certainty will avoid risks that could lead to incredible growth, but might also cause pain. A person driven by significance may achieve wealth and fame, but struggle to build deep relationships. A person driven by love may choose connection over ambition and feel fulfilled even with less material success. Your life is the result of this tilt, so understanding your own internal priority system is one of the most liberating realizations you can have. But there's another element. Once you know your top needs, the question becomes, how do you go about meeting them? That's where your internal map comes in. Think of your map as your psychological GPS. It's made up of your beliefs about life, about yourself, about others, and about what it takes to be happy. It's also shaped by your upbringing, your culture, your religion, your trauma, and your environment. 2 people may have the same target, say, the need for significance, but wildly different maps for how to get there. 1 person may believe that to feel significant, they need to serve others, save lives, or become a healer. That person becomes a nurse, a doctor, or a fireman, someone who would die to protect others. Another person with the same deep need for significance might believe that they must dominate others, instill fear, or seek revenge. Their map says that power is significance. That person becomes a criminal or even a terrorist. The need is the same. But the map is different. This is why understanding someone's behavior requires us to understand their model of the world. You can't influence someone until you understand what's already influencing them. And maps aren't always rational. Some are based on outdated beliefs. Some are built on pain. Some were handed down generationally. But here's the problem. If your map is broken, it doesn't matter how clear your goal is. You'll never get there. Imagine using an old version of MapQuest on a road that's changed. You have a clear destination in mind, but your directions are outdated. That's how most people live. Your job is to upgrade your map. Challenge your assumptions. Unlearn what no longer serves you. Build a belief system that supports growth, fulfillment, and contribution. Now we arrive at the most critical piece of the puzzle. Emotion. You can have the right target. You can have an accurate map, but if you don't have the right emotional state, you'll still fail. Emotion is what fuels the journey. ROBBINS makes a profound observation here. Most people live in a very narrow emotional range. Out of the 6,000 words in the English language that describe emotions, the average person only feels 12 emotions regularly in a typical week. And half of them are disempowering. Think about that. Out of the infinite range of human emotion, excitement, love, joy, gratitude, curiosity, wonder, most people spend their week feeling frustrated, stressed, overwhelmed, tired, sad, bored, or angry. The rest of their emotional world is flatlined. Worse, many people become addicted to certain emotional patterns. Some get addicted to being angry. No matter what happens, they find a way to be pissed off. They feel powerful in that anger. It becomes a habit, an identity. Others become addicted to worry or guilt. These emotions feel familiar, safe, but they also slowly destroy the quality of life. And then there are those rare individuals who, no matter what happens, find a way to feel grateful, who stay curious in the face of problems, who laugh even in dark moments, who can reframe any setback as a setup for something greater. These people have mastered what ROBBINS calls emotional fitness. On September 11th, 2001, the world changed. Tragedy struck. Fear exploded. Certainty collapsed. ROBBINS was in Hawaii with 2,000 people from 45 countries. They were in the middle of a seminar translating simultaneously in 4 languages. The night before, they'd done a session on emotional mastery, a session designed to prepare people for any storm. And then the storm came. Ace, the news of the attacks reached the room. People broke down in tears. Fear, rage, sorrow, confusion. What could he do? ROBBINS understood this was not a moment to just keep going. This was a moment to guide people through emotion, to become aware of what we're feeling, and to take control of our state, not in denial, but in choice. He had everyone in the room pair up. Each person was someone from another country, ideally someone from a conflicting nation. A Jew with a Muslim, an American with an Iraqi, a Palestinian with an Israeli. He asked a question, what do you feel? One by one, people expressed their truth, fear, anger, love, empathy, humanity. People cried, people hugged, people healed. And something powerful happened. Even in the face of destruction, people chose love. They chose unity. They chose meaning. Because emotion is a choice when we become conscious of it. Here's the deepest truth. Your life is not shaped by your conditions, it's shaped by your emotions. And your emotions are shaped by what you habitually focus on, what you habitually believe, and what you habitually do. If you constantly focus on what you can't control, you'll feel anxious. If you focus on what you don't have, you'll feel scarcity. If you focus on what's missing in others, you'll feel resentment, but shift that focus on what you can control and you feel empowered. Focus on what you do have and you feel abundant. Focus on what's beautiful in others and you feel love. The mind will always find what it's trained to look for. And the emotion that follows is the fuel that powers every action or inaction you take. This is why emotional mastery is not just a tool. It is a necessity for anyone who wants to live a beautiful life. You don't need to be a slave to your emotional patterns. You can train yourself to feel differently. Start by noticing what are the top 3 emotions you feel every day. Are they empowering you or disempowering you? What triggers them? What would you like to feel instead? Then start creating new habits, daily gratitude, daily movement, meaningful connection, uplifting conversations, breathing exercises, music, visualization. Emotion doesn't just show up. You can summon it. And when you consistently generate elevated emotions like gratitude, passion, courage, or love, you build a life where no matter what happens on the outside, you have power on the inside. That's the ultimate freedom. So here's the final synthesis. Know your target. Which human need is running your life? And is it bringing you joy or limitation? Examine your map. Do your beliefs lead you where you want to go, or are you following broken directions? Master your emotions, because your state determines your behavior and your behavior determines your life. This is the formula. Not a theory, but a pattern repeated by millions across all cultures. And it's not about perfection. You'll still feel fear. You'll still face pain. You'll still stumble. But with a conscious relationship to your needs, your beliefs, and your emotions, you can shape a destiny that is not just successful, but deeply fulfilled. Your life is your message. Your emotional state is your soundtrack, and your choices every day are the brushstrokes painting the masterpiece of your life. In the final part of his TED Talk, Tony Robbins delivers a raw, emotionally powerful conclusion that ties together the essence of everything he's been saying. It's about human transformation, not just individual success or personal growth, but deep emotional change that radiates into the world around us. Robbins begins this segment by reflecting on a moment he experienced during his seminar in Hawaii just before the tragedy of 9/11 struck. He recalls speaking to his audience and improvising a question: when do people really start to live? The answer he proposes is when they face death. This confronting realization framed the emotional narrative of his session as he posed a profound exercise. If you had 9 days left to live, who would you call? What would you say? What would you do? This wasn't just hypothetical, it became a real moment of clarity for the people in the room. That night, as fate would have it, 9/11s occurred. Suddenly, the exercise wasn't a metaphor anymore, it was an echo of imminent reality. Robbins shares a poignant and heartbreaking story of a woman who had come to his seminar. She had previously lost a boyfriend to kidnapping and murder, and her current partner had given her an ultimatum: choose him or go to this seminar. She chose the seminar. Moved by the session, she decided to leave a voicemail that night from Hawaii to New York, telling him she loved him and wanted to marry him. That night, he was working at the top of the World Trade Center. At 3 a.m. her time, he returned her call. In his message, he expressed gratitude for her love, saying that her message gave him the greatest gift as he was about to die. The message was played to Robbins and the audience, shaking them to their core. It was a visceral demonstration of how a single act of love, a decision to express emotion in a moment of truth, could create meaning even in the final minutes of life. It's a reminder that we never know how much time we have, and thus we must not withhold love, purpose, or courage. Then Robbins recounts another moment. A man in the room stands up and says, "I'm from Pakistan. I'm a Muslim. I'd love to hold your hand and say I'm sorry, but frankly, this is retribution." This controversial and shocking statement sets the stage for a powerful emotional intervention. Robbins is out of time, but the audience urges him to finish. So in 10 seconds, he summarizes what becomes one of the most transformational moments in his entire seminar history. He brings that man on stage alongside a New Yorker who worked at the World Trade Center. Over 200 New Yorkers were in the room. More than 50 had lost friends, companies, or employees. Robbins describes one woman, hardened by her job as a financial trader, breaking down as she crossed off 30 names from her Palm Pilot friends who had perished in a palace. The pain in the room was immense, palpable. But Robbins, rather than dwell in sorrow, does something powerful. He shifts the room's focus. He asks, what are we going to focus on? What does this mean? What are we going to be doing? These 3 questions are his tools for transformation. He guides the participants to shift their focus from loss to contribution. If you didn't lose someone, he tells them, then you must serve someone. Transform pain into purpose, grief into giving. One woman who was not from New York, not even American, stood up in anger. She was screaming and yelling. Robbins, seeing deeper, asked the question, do you always get angry? She admitted she did. The point became clear. People return to their emotional home, whether it's guilt, anger, sadness, or frustration. When confronted with extreme emotion, people revert to familiar states. Robbins identifies this pattern and redirects it. The most powerful demonstration of this comes in the form of what Robbins calls an indirect negotiation. He takes the man from Pakistan, who expressed feelings of retribution, and a Jewish man from New York, whose family lived in the occupied territories. A man who, had he gone to work that day, would have died. Robbins stages a deeply emotional encounter between the two. They represent opposing belief systems, cultures, and pain. But through emotional mastery and understanding, Robbins guides them not just toward mutual understanding, but to reconciliation. This wasn't staged. This was real. And the result was stunning. The two men, through deep emotional processing and belief realignment, not only came to respect each other, they became partners in peace. They began working together, visiting mosques and synagogues, sharing their experience and building a message of unity. The man from Pakistan, who once believed in violence as a form of retribution, wrote a book titled My Jihad, My Way of Peace. Transformation had occurred not through politics, not through punishment, but through emotional intervention, through connection, through understanding the human needs and emotions that drive behavior. Robbins ends with a call to action: explore your web, not the internet web, but the internal web, the interconnected needs, beliefs, and emotions that make up your psyche. Why? For two reasons. First, so you can give more, not just achieve more, but give, because giving is what fills you. And second, so you can appreciate, not just understand, which is intellectual, but truly appreciate what drives other people. That, he says, is the only way the world will change. The story isn't just about a motivational speaker teaching emotional intelligence. It's about the ability of human beings to shift their focus, change their meaning, and take powerful, loving action in the face of pain. It's about how, in the darkest of times, we can choose light not by suppressing our pain, but by transforming it into purpose. It's about recognizing that our emotions, our beliefs, our needs, they're not just personal. They're the levers of human destiny. The change Robbins advocates for is not philosophical, it is practical and urgent. We live in a world of division, of misunderstanding, of fear. The only way forward is through emotional mastery, through knowing what drives us and using that knowledge to connect, contribute, and love. Because at the end of the day, we are all wired the same way. The same 6 needs. The same capacity to hurt or to heal. The same ability to choose our focus, to create meaning, and to direct our lives with emotional strength. And so Robbins leaves us not with a conclusion, but with an invitation. Explore your internal web, master it, share it, and in doing so, help others master theirs. That is the true path to a fulfilled life in a peaceful world.